Hello and welcome to Chillingham Castle.
Lots of shadows are seen around here and voices are heard. She said that she died in this corner, curled up, died of the cold, of the pneumonia.
During the night, I was kept awake by footsteps upstairs. I had not thought it was theft, but trophy hunting. However, now I pray peace will return to my life. And if anybody wants to visit a haunted castle in this country, then in my opinion, this is probably the most haunted castle in Great Britain. Hello, and welcome to Chillingham Castle. My name's Richard Felix, and I'm the paranormal historian on the TV programme Most Haunted. I've come here today to what I believe to be one of the most historic and also one of the most haunted castles in the British Isles. It goes back to at least 1100 when there was an old tower house on the site. It belonged to the Grey family, who came over with William the Conqueror in 1066. In 1344, a royal warrant was given, giving them the right to build a much bigger crenellated castle, similar to what you see here today. In 1409, the Greys besieged and took the castle of Tankerville at the mouth of the River Seine in France, and were granted the still existent earldom of Tankerville, thus establishing a link between the Greys and the Tankervilles. But I'm not going to do this alone today, because I have a real scoop. Because inside here is a guy called Bob, who does the ghost walks around this castle. He knows much more about the ghosts and some of the history than I do. So without further ado, let's go inside and meet him. Are you there, Bob? Good day to you, sir.
Hello Richard,
how are you?
Chillingham.
Thank you very much.
Let me show you around.
Absolutely. Now, I'm right that we're actually not going to start inside the castle.
No, that's correct.
You're going to take me outside?
Yes. Believe it or believe it not, there is hauntings in the grounds themselves, and there is some very historic areas that people have seen. In fact, it was one of the first ghost stories I was introduced to when I came to Chillingham.
Really? Now, this is the dark, dark woods that are down here, is that right?
That is correct, yes. The famous Monk's Trail, and we go past the famous hanging trees.
Excellent. Well, I think let's go that way first,
yeah,
and then come back inside afterwards.
Let's shut the door and leave them in, eh?
Good idea.
Follow me this
Off we
way.
go.
Right then, Richard, this is one of the most famous and most, I've got to say, most active stories here at Chillingham. This is of the monks, the Monk's Trail and the hanging trees. Lots of activity around these woods. Okay, the old monastery here dates back to Saxon times. They say from the year 900. In fact,
that's part of it.
That's part of it. Still part of it. It's a very holy area. The whole of Northumberland are really.
Yeah.
And what the monks used to do is have a pilgrimage between each holy land or holy place, as they ventured off to the famous Holy Island on the coast. It's not far away from here. And what we get, especially on ghost tours that we do here and vigils that we do through the night, is lots of people picking up on the cameras, shadows, movement in the trees, actually having the feeling of being followed.
Really?
Is quite a big one, and lots of people after the vigils, especially obviously people who stay here, come in the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, to witness these things, and they do catch them quite regularly on their cameras.
Really? And so you actually got footage?
Yeah, people have got photographs of shadows actually standing next to me sometimes, which is quite frightening at the end of the night. But these things are quite regular.
So in other words, people can genuinely come on a ghost walk here to Chillingham, and there is a possibility that something might happen to them while they're on it.
Yeah, it's not every ghost tour, but when something does happen here at Chillingham, it is a time to remember. People do remember it, and it is a feeling that they've never experienced before, and that is a big thing here at Chillingham Castle. It's a great feeling if you're into that sort of thing.
Which
most people are, but most people get quite shocked by it, because it is, especially the ghost tour, the Monk's Trail, like I say, is a very active, and you cannot deny what you see.
Well, we better go and do that then.
Yes, let's have a further walk down the track.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is part of the Monk's Trail, and it's very active. Lots of shadows are seen around here, and voices are heard.
Really?
Yes, definitely. And this is one of the famous hanging trees. This is the first one that we show people. We've had these trees dated, and this tree is 1,500 years old.
Woo!
And this is originally, when it was just one lookout tower, it had a little perimeter wall, and this was just on the outside of the perimeter wall.
Gotcha.
Hanging trees were used as a deterrent to keep people away from the castle. And anybody that was caught trespassing just behind the wall or just inside the wall was caught and hung in the trees.
Yeah, because we're talking of rough justice that was dished out by the people that lived in the castle, of course, aren't we? The lords.
That's right. And they didn't hang you just by the neck. It was by the waist, upside down, by the ankles, by your wrists. Anything that would make you moan and groan and cry and like plead your innocence, if it were, that could be heard from miles around. Because what you've got to understand is all these trees around here have been introduced. Okay, you just had the basic trees. These are yew trees, very old trees, like I mentioned, and these would have been around there at the time. There's none of these modern, if you like, trees. There were none of these. These are all naturally grown around this area, and bones have been found in this area, 900-year-old bones. Because obviously you wouldn't have been buried as such, and your bodies would have just decayed, fell to the ground, and just been naturally covered over. And we was quite lucky to find bones, actually, because there was lots of other wildlife in the area at that time, and they'd have been dragged the carcasses away, and so we was very lucky to find the bones.
That is amazing. So again, obviously this is part of your ghost walk.
Yes, that's right.
Pretty different in the middle of the night, of course.
Of course, yeah. But it's still atmospheric.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And lots of people do see things in the day as well as night. You'd be quite surprised.
Well,
lots of people see children in the trees. Children used to come and climb the trees and pinch from the dead bodies or the dying bodies in the trees, and pinch out the pockets or the clothes that they were actually wearing. So it's quite an amazing story, really. Oh, yeah. And very true, very true.
These bones that were found, I mean, are they still in existence, or have they been taken away and buried?
They've been taken away. Some have decayed apparently, but there is one or two that still survive. But they've been taken away to museums and things.
Good Lord.
But I'll show you the other tree through here if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Follow me.
This is obviously fallen down, Bob, isn't it? I mean,
well, there's lots of gory stories that go along with it, but yeah, naturally I think it's fallen down.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the other tree, and
right. Look at that. I mean, that again, fallen down completely. It's still alive, isn't it?
It's still alive and still growing. If you stood it up on its original position, you'd realise how long this tree has been lying like this, because it'd be amongst these other trees. And this really does date back from the castle era, and this was a definite hanging tree. These are where the bones were found underneath this tree.
Here?
Yeah. And these are where a lot of moaning and groaning is heard. People do pick up on these sounds. And like I've said, children running around the branches of the trees is quite a haunting experience. And I've seen them myself, so I can't deny that I haven't.
You've genuinely seen things?
I've genuinely seen movement in the trees in shapes of children, definitely.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, of course, tonight we're obviously going out to do a bit of night work. So, things might happen?
Things I hope will happen. Can't guarantee it.
Of course not.
But hopefully, I really hope so. Definitely.
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Let's carry on down here and I'll show you another one of the hanging trees.
Okay, oh, there's more?
Yes, there's another one.
Don't think I can get any higher.
Just past this branch here, there's a groove, isn't there? Is it there, just where your hand is there?
Well, I can't see anything. But then again, if it was that long ago, talking medieval times, of course, it may be totally different. But no.
From down here, it does look like.
I mean, but what I've done, Bob, I've just literally gone up to have a look because we did do a programme once where we found grooves on a hanging tree in Scotland. And I'm looking to see, because this is obviously the bough that they'd be hanged from.
Yeah.
This is the biggest and the thickest. But if it was in medieval times when it happened, the tree will have changed so much.
Yeah.
I can't, unfortunately, see anything, but I'm a bit disappointed. But this must have been the bough that they were hanged on.
Yeah, I mean, this is where a lot of the local people call this the hanging tree of Chillingham, because this is where they see a lot of the bodies hanging from here. And in fact, we had a great orb caught against this tree, and in the orb you could see an image of somebody standing around here looking up. You could see 2 feet actually dangling from this branch.
You're kidding?
Aye, so that was quite a remarkable time.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that the pathways all converge. There's a pathway there, pathway here, one here. They all seem to converge. So this is almost on the crossroads, isn't it?
That's right.
Which is the right sort of place.
And this is where a lot of the shadows of the monks are seen, because we believe that the monks would have been a bit more direct from the actual the monastery where they were. They'd have walked a bit more direct this way. And in fact, it was known that a lot of the monks used to peel themselves off and help chop the people out of the trees and set them free.
Really?
Yeah. So they used to get into a lot of trouble with the castle about that as well. Yeah. So that is seen a lot. But just further down here, we have a mass burial ground that is quite an atmospheric place.
Right.
Do you want to join me there?
I'll put my coat back on and have a look.
Yeah, let's go and have a look.
This is the end of the Monk's Walk, Bob, but I mean, there's a special area here, of course, isn't there?
Yeah, there's lots of unique areas in Chillingham, and this is one of them. It's one of the scariest ones for me personally, because it's a very, very strong atmosphere about this place, and they believe that this was a mass burial ground, because it's not known how many people were actually killed, slaughtered or murdered here at Chillingham Castle. There's loads of figures I've been given over the time I've been doing this: 25,000, 30,000, 40,000. Who knows? But they must have been an area, because Chillingham isn't that a big a castle really compared to a lot of the others in this area. So they did get engulfed with lots of prisoners and bodies, so they believe that this was a mass burial ground. These are all yew trees. Yew trees are associated with death. You find lots of graveyards, and also pagans used to plant a yew tree above bodies that they buried. And yew trees are also grown for their unusual shape. They were grown to make bows. So that's associated with killings and death and things like that. So whether it's true or not, I don't know, but this is a really, really atmospheric place at night, and lots of people pick up on lots of things, shadows as well as noises again in this area. So, and I think it's because of the freedom that you've got of walking around here that it's very, very a common place for people to come and find spirits and look out for spirits.
I mean, the fabulous thing about Chillingham is its incredible bloody history over 1,000 years.
That's right.
That's the stuff we can prove.
Yeah.
But what we can't, unfortunately, prove are the ghost stories.
That's right.
But the two go so well together, don't they?
That's right.
Ghosts and history make an incredible place. And that's what this place has got.
That's right. Chillingham Castle in its day was classed as what we class our most notorious jail or prison. You know, if you was coming to Chillingham, you knew you'd never be seen again.
Really?
So that's one of the famous sort of lines of Chillingham. You know, it was a notorious and horrible place to come to.
Yeah, and you wouldn't come out alive.
It's very, very. We have never heard of anybody coming out alive. One or two have tried to escape, but never made it. Yeah, you'd never come away alive. Definitely.
And that's why there's so many of their tormented souls still in the castle.
Exactly that, and why it's a mystery where all the bodies went. And like I say, some of them are probably here where we're standing now.
So this is the end of the outside bit. I can't wait to get inside.
There's more inside, I can assure you. We'll go this way.
Okie dokie. So we've finally made it inside the castle, well, at least inside the courtyard. I presume it's even haunted in here, is it?
It's haunted everywhere. The famous story at Chillingham is that every brick of the castle is haunted, because every area has its story. And in the courtyard, mainly what happens in the courtyard is voices and things being heard more than things being seen.
Right.
People hear children playing. Children have a big influence here at Chillingham. Children are heard a lot and seen a lot at Chillingham. For a story that I'll probably tell you later on. But the courtyard, everybody who comes to Chillingham always has a feeling of being watched in the courtyard. That's one of the strongest ones here at Chillingham.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing. People sit around the benches in the courtyard just to have that feeling.
Really? Well, people that are sort of staying overnight,
overnight,
doing vigils
yeah,
and all that sort of stuff, actually come out here and we'll have to try that later.
Yeah,
and see what
we'll try all these
happens.
things
Yes,
later.
of course, yeah.
But we'll venture off up into the Great Hall and
Through those lovely old doors.
through the lovely old doors.
Okay.
Let's go.
And this is leading to the Great Hall.
This is up to the Great Hall with some really interesting stories, as well as true stories.
Right. Oh, that's not been open for a bit, has it? Wow. So we're in the Great Hall. When's dinner being brought?
Yeah, well, you can have dinner any time, Richard, but I think it's important to tell you a few of the things that happen in the Great Hall here.
Yeah, please.
What you get is this is where the castle gets very mysterious, because in its time the Great Hall was a number of things. That is part of the original tower that's behind us here.
Yep.
And over on the other side is obviously the second tower to be built. Right. And what you had between the two towers was a walkway where the soldiers patrolled. Okay, so it's not unusual for people to see soldiers actually patrolling up and down with the weaponry and everything. Even horses have been heard in this Great Hall. And also you get the mixture of people having fun, enjoying themselves, having a laugh, having a meal, like you're wanting at the moment. You know, and seeing great big pots, roasts on the tables and things. It's not unusual for people to pick these up.
So you're getting echoes from the past?
All the time, from different eras. And that's why Chillingham is voted as the most haunted place, because you've got that much history in, although it is a very big room, in a small area in a way of history. You've got a mixture of different decades and different centuries going on just in this one room.
I mean, I don't know whether you actually heard that, but I mean, I just turned and looked down that way because it was as if something had, I don't know, something had been... Did you hear it?
I did hear it.
I don't know whether we caught that on this sounds like most haunted, doesn't it? I don't know whether we caught that on sound or not, but there was definitely something that seemed as if it was thrown around, and I presume that sort of thing happens quite a lot.
It happens all the time, and because I've been doing this for quite some time now, some people, especially because we have psychic clubs and paranormal clubs and vigil clubs and things like that, a lot of people that come here class me as a sensitive. I can sense things. I have a lot of spirits that follow me around. They seem to know when there's ghost tours on and things like that.
Yes.
So, and we've got the wrong perception of ghosts, I feel. I feel that ghosts are quite intelligent, and they're not things that float around in the air with sheets on the head.
Correct.
Or things with the limbs and blood splurting everywhere. People sort of expect that when they come to Chillingham. But I'm afraid a lot of the ghosts here at Chillingham are quite intelligent. They've lived on this planet before, and they're quite observant. They like to stand and watch, and that's the biggest feeling you get. It's very difficult on camera to pick the atmosphere up of Chillingham. You have to come in here yourself to experience the atmosphere. Even in the daytime, as we're filming now, it's quite atmospheric.
It is.
And things do happen like you've experienced. And it's quite natural for me not to react as quick as I do, because it happens to me all the time.
You just carried on talking, actually, as if it was the norm.
I live here, and I pick up and see things quite a lot, and it's just become so natural to me to welcome it in, really.
Yes, of course. Now, of course, there's other things. This room is absolutely full of items and artifacts, but the vast majority of them in here are things that have taken people's lives. I mean, there's those incredible axe. I mean, I don't know how many heads that's taken off. I can't imagine. A mace like I've never seen. I think it's probably Indian. It's certainly Eastern. I mean, that has smashed people's brains in. And they're real.
They're real.
And of course, oh my God, you've got your favourite here.
This is my favourite, and probably underestimated when people come here, because obviously, especially children, love to see the weapons and what it can do to people. But this is called a priest, and it's made from lignum vitae wood, and it's one of the densest woods you can get. Right. And Priests used to go around after a battle to anybody who was beyond help, because obviously in them days we didn't have the ambulances that we've got now. And so the easiest way to put people out their pain and misery was to end their lives quite quickly. And priests used to go around, give them the last prayer, and finish them off with this.
Whack them over the head with that.
And that's right. And all these notches that are on it are all the people that the priest has actually ended their lives with. Quite an incredible and historical thing, and very rare, very rare.
So again, that particular item has taken lives.
Oh yes, definitely. In a better probably way,
Oh,
in a humane way than the others. But yes.
So we're surrounded by echoes from the past, but also, as I say, items that have actually ended people's lives.
Yeah, that's correct.
No wonder it's as haunted as it is in here. Now, but we've now got what you say is the most haunted bit of the castle.
That's right. For me personally, the chapel is the most haunted. It's where I've witnessed more things than any other room.
Come and tell me all about it,
Okay,
please.
let's
Because
go.
I'm not going to get any dinner, am I?
No, it doesn't look like it. You'll have to wait for a bit longer.
So this staircase leads us down into the old chapel, I presume.
That's right, Richard, yeah.
Oh, look at this. Now this is one of the original two towers, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. This was the second tower to be built.
Right, and then the other tower over that side, that was the original, obviously.
That's the original tower.
And then they built a crenellated wall, a castle wall in between the two to join them.
Where the Great Hall was, yeah.
Right. And how long has this been a chapel?
This has been a chapel, they believe, since about the 1300s. What the Tankervilles wanted to do when or the Greys, whichever way you want to look at it, when they took the castle over, was to cleanse the castle of all its evilness.
Whoops, gotcha.
Anything to do with the evilness of the castle. Because it was said that these towers once had bodies all the way around to scare people away.
Yeah.
Again, a deterrent, a lot like the hanging trees.
Yes, yeah.
And so they wanted to cleanse everything that was to do with evilness, and so they made it into a chapel. But bones were found here under the alcove here, and again about 900-year-old bones. So lots of things have been witnessed in here, and for me personally, this is the most haunted room.
Why?
Quite simply because when I was first associated with the ghost tours, I used to sort of take the back of the group. And one day I had a psychic approach me and said, "Do you realise you're being followed by a young girl?"
Right.
And I sort of laughed it off, as you do. And but then I started noticing things, because I think it's a lot like anybody's job. The more you do it, the sort of better you get at it, the more you sort of pick up on things. And it's exactly the same as this. So I started picking up on this young girl and just seeing her out the corner of my eye and feeling her about me. And then I've had one or two other psychics come along and tell me very similar things. And so we believe that her name was Eleanor, and she was one of the young girls that was raped and had horrible things done to her. They were captured in the villages and things and brought back to the castle and had horrible things done to them.
For the amusement of the people in the castle?
For the amusement, because it was so boring and the tedious lives that they did lead. So Eleanor was chucked out of the tower, but there was nowhere for her to go. So she returned back in here, crawled in here. It is said that she died in this corner, curled up, died of cold, of the pneumonia, or something like that. And she's a very shy, very frightened girl. But she has done things in this chapel that I'm quite amazed of. She's made the curtain move, books have been flying about, things slowly fall off the chairs, and women especially feel the clothes being pulled, as though she's sort of very inquisitive about the local fashion or the up-to-date fashion of things. Even women's ponytails have been picked up and dropped in this actual room. It's quite an amazing and very, very atmospheric room. Very, very strong and powerful. And it's also, late at night, it's one of the darkest rooms that you'll ever be coming to. Very, very dark. You forget you've got your eyes open. Your eyes will not adjust. It's very, 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 very spooky room.
Really? So again, tonight, of course, we'll be in here.
Yep.
Lights off.
Yes.
Night vision cameras on.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Let's have our fingers crossed and hope something happens. Hope Eleanor appears.
Well, you never know.
We never know.
I do.
Eleanor's also one of the ghosts I'm trying to prove that it resides here. we have two other ghosts that definitely reside here. One is of the famous Mary Berkeley that we'll probably tell about later on.
Yes.
And there is the evil John Sage, who is the evil side of the spirit world here.
Really?
So we'll talk about them a bit later on.
Okay.
But Eleanor is, for me, one of the most strongest spirits here.
And resident here in the chapel.
And resident, I believe, in the chapel.
Great.
Okay. Let's go down and have a look in the minstrels.
Okay. Right, now we're actually passing through the outer wall, are we not, Bob? Here?
That's right.
Into the minstrels.
Into the minstrels gallery. And another area where the Greys and the Tankervilles wanted to hide everything that was evil, so they made this into a lovely minstrels gallery where people had fun and enjoyed themselves, completely disregard all the evilness that was to do with the castle. This was an outside wall at one point, as you can tell by the little turret above there.
Yeah, that's some arrows lit up there, isn't it?
That's right. And this is where the area where they say there was lots of bodies hung.
Yep.
Hung along
on the
here.
outer side of
on
the
the
walls.
outer side,
Yeah.
as a deterrent to keep people away or to show how powerful the place
Similar
was.
thing to quite often what farmers do when they shoot crows, hang them up in trees.
That's right.
It's a similar sort of thing, isn't
Very
it? As you
similar.
say, a
And the
deterrent.
Tower of London used to chop the heads off.
And stick
hang-
their heads on spikes, correct?
Exactly the same as that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not a very nice area. Lots of psychics that come here don't like this area, this little balcony. They sense a lot of evilness and torture and killing around this area. It's and one of my most memorable experiences, if you like, was on a ghost tour, standing on this actual balcony, and everybody in the ghost tour looking to my right and seeing a great big black shadow standing next to me.
You're joking?
No, and that was quite haunting in itself, because everybody in the ghost tour saw it before me, so it wasn't like I was making it up. Everybody saw it before me. I just looked to me right and, whoa, what's that?
You saw it?
Oh, yeah, right next to me here. And I sort of went, whoa, like that. Looked away, and as I looked back, you could see it just disappearing.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
That was a real bonus, though, for people on the ghost tour.
Oh, yeah, it's what I call a goosebumpy moment.
Just a bit?
Just a bit, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
But the room itself is quite a weird area of the castle, because underneath the floor of the minstrels is the original torture chamber.
Oh.
So, again, quite atmospheric, but very weird on what people pick up in this room. A lot of people see things actually looking through the windows of the room and see people moving around. My actual last experience of seeing a ghost was looking through this. After a ghost tour, I was making sure everything was locked up, and I saw a person standing on the floor here, looked round and looked at me, and then went up through the door, came up here, and went into the chapel.
You watched it go all the way around?
And he was,
you were looking from outside?
He was sort of banging on the balcony, sort of tormenting me, if you like, saying sort of thing as he disappeared up into the chapel.
Was it? I mean, it was a distinct, definite figure?
Oh, yeah, definite figure.
Not just a shadow?
No,
a
definite figure. You could see he was definitely a man, a good 6 foot, over 6'2", something like that. A big man. And
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, quite another goosebumpy moment. All in this area. This is where, it really is something that you can't think. People are quite easily going to say that I'm making it up, but
well, everyone says that anyway, Bob. That's but you know.
Yeah, I know.
What you saw.
And these are the things that it keeps me interested here, and
the people on your ghost walk know as well, because they saw it as well as you did.
Well, they caught it, but I was the one that came to the window straight away and saw it.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's right.
Great.
So it's a great thing when things like that happen, but it's not every time.
Oh, of course not.
And
no,
this is
very seldom actually. When
this is
happen.
what people have got to understand. It's not every time.
Now where?
Well, we can go down into the room itself if you like,
yeah.
and I'll tell you a bit more.
Okay, lead on, Macduff. Just listen to that door creak. You've got lots of them.
We've got lots of them. No matter how much time we oil them, they still creak.
That's what you need. But I mean, you would never think down here, the lovely tea room, people just come in here enjoying themselves. They don't realise, of course, what went on under their feet.
That's correct. And you can tell by the different levels. There used to be a roof on here, and this was probably where there was smaller cells, probably where the windows are, where they kept the prisoners, before they actually took them down into the torture chamber.
Which is directly underneath.
Which is directly underneath here, and this is why the Tankervilles built this fireplace here, because they wanted to block off the main entrance, if you like, down into the torture chamber. So they deliberately put a fireplace there, because there is already an original one at the back there. Course, yeah, and we use that more than that one, to be honest.
They're both working now, are they?
They both work, yeah, but we use that one.
To have two huge fireplaces like
That's
that.
right. But you go, that wall was completely plastered over and completely hid everything about what went off before.
I see. And what happens down here? I mean, do people that are sitting having a meal sometimes report things happening?
Yeah, some people experience things behind them, or people sitting next to them, feeling people rubbing their legs and things like that. Yeah, we have lots of people.
So again, even in here, it's very active.
Oh yeah. So distinct that people actually are that frightened that they throw their drinks or the meal or whatever they're eating out of their hand. It's quite a regular occurrence. Yeah.
Gosh.
And we also have Judith, our famous cook, we call her the cook because she looks like she's dressed as a cook, but lots of psychics have picked up Judith, who sits by the fireplace.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant a real person.
No.
Oh, another ghost.
Another ghost, yeah, who's seen quite regularly, as well as the dogs and other animals that are seen in this room as well. And this is the room where most haunted screamed and ran out of.
Oh wow!
Really, apparently, really. Big existence that they felt in this room.
Really?
Yeah.
So again, as haunted as anywhere else.
As haunted as anywhere else.
Right.
But again, underestimated, because people don't realise until they come on one of our ghost tours or our vigils and they pick up on these things.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Now where?
Well, we can have a look up the King Edward's first room if you like.
Please.
Yeah, that would be great.
Awesome.
So if we walk this way.
Right, through this door.
Yeah. Might be another creaky one.
Creaks. Not as much.
Not as much, but it's nearly there.
For me, Bob, I reckon this is the best room in the house. I mean, history is oozing out of the walls in this place. This is the original part of the tower. So it goes back to, 1100s. Uh-huh. King Edward I stayed here, in this room. Longshanks, the hammer of the Scots. I mean, what orders, what plans did he draw up in this room when he was going to attack Scotland, he was going to attack William Wallace? What emotions are still contained within the walls of this building? I don't know. This is pure history for me. And not only have we got the history, of course, but we have ghosts to go with it, because this room's haunted, isn't it?
Oh, this is one of the most popular rooms for vigils.
I can imagine.
Vigils, they like sitting in this room through the night. People have really picked up really unusual things in this room. Who actually haunts this room, nobody's really sure of, because there's that many things that go off in this room. Some people say it is King Edward himself. Other people say what used to happen when it was just one original tower was, when there was no backles on, it was empty. Yeah. So you have a lot of people that used to come and just use it to fend themselves away from the wind and the rain and what have you. And so a lot of psychics that come pick up on these people, these hooded, spooky, really weird looking men that roam this room around. And then again, you've got the soldiers that patrol around the top of the balcony here.
Yeah, that's original. Or part of it was, some of the beams are still there, aren't they?
That's correct, yeah. And Humphreys try to put it back to its original state so people can really take in what it used to be like. Very basic, very simple. No running water, no electricity. Very basic, very horrible. The smell in itself must have been horrendous.
Yeah. And just at the back of us here, of course, we have the remains of the old garderobe, which was the toilet, of course.
That's right.
Ensuite bathroom.
That's
for
right.
The king.
That's right. For the king himself, it was built directly for the king. Yeah. He ordered the toilet to be built for him.
Really?
Yeah.
You see, the amazing thing about the fact that people say they believe it could be King Edward himself, which of course it could be, but he didn't die here. So people will say, well, so why should he be here? I'm a great believer in someone that's very famous. Mary Queen of Scots, Edward I, various people like that they have to have a certain something extra. More energy, charisma, call it what you want. But when you meet those sort of people, you often say, they left a real impression on me. is it not just possible that they could also leave an impression of themselves on the building when they've left, which is actually seen again, encapsulated into the stonework of the building,
That's right.
and replayed to certain people that see things? So it could be Edward I.
Could well be, yeah.
Could be anybody, we know that.
There is a sighting of a very tall man in here quite regularly.
Really?
Well
They
over
called him Longshanks.
That's correct, yeah. So, but we don't know. We can't verify this. So we're not a place that brags about it or will exaggerate on it. That's completely up to the people that come here to make their minds up. Yeah. And hopefully one, you know, the odd one or two that do pick this up will verify these things. Yeah. You know, it is quite a remarkable sighting when you do see it.
Yeah, I'm sure. My favourite room, this. Anyway, I shall put the room clearer down, back in its rightful place. Thank you very much. And we carry on.
We do carry on indeed, yes. This way.
All right. Bob, this should be the spookiest place. It's probably the scariest place. It's the torture chamber, but it's not real, is it?
No, like we explained earlier at the minstrels, the original torture chamber is below the minstrels' floor. It's a bit unsafe down there, so we've brought everything into what was once the winery or the cellar.
Yeah.
There's no way that the torture chamber would be on the same level as the courtyard. People popping in, seeing how things are. It just wouldn't happen. Everything here where we're standing around us and behind us was definitely used at Chillingham Castle. That's been proven. Yeah. There's one or two of the other things in the rest of the building that we'll be looking at later on that are just a collection really, but it still goes to show how it's progressed through the years and how it still is going on today. As we know, overseas at the moment, there's lots of horrible things.
Of course, torture still going on.
Torture still goes on today. Yeah. But these things were definitely used at Chillingham Castle.
Really? Now, the amount of torment and anguish and pain that would have gone on while people were in some of these awful contraptions, and as we said about the weapons earlier, the fact that they really were used here, I presume means that the area is haunted. Yeah,
this area is still active, although it's not the original torture chamber. What we get mostly in here is people have witnessed hooded men again, whether it's the monks or not. This is where we're not too sure, because lots of people in them days used to walk around with blankets, if you like, over them and to protect themselves from.
And most people wore hoods.
That's right.
We all think they're monks, don't we?
That's
today,
right.
But they may not be.
They may not be. That's what's picked up in here. There could have been just workers that were working in here, because it probably would have been really cold and damp down here. We do get, which is quite popular with the people on ghost tours, at least every other ghost tour, if you like, that we have here, people pick up on orbs in this room.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So there must be a high energy down here.
So there's something in here.
Yeah.
So basically what we're going to do now is to have a little wander round and explain the horrors of the torture chamber here at Chillingham.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I mean, are any of these items real?
Oh yeah, all these we definitely used at Chillingham Castle.
Right.
The cage here and the gibbet chain cage there are all originated from here.
Wow.
The cage was a progression from the actual hanging rope because it was very easy for people to sneak around, chop them out of the tree, especially the monks in this area used to sneak around and set people free. And so the cage was a progression.
Gosh, I mean, you wouldn't get out of that very easily, would you?
No, no. It was also said that they put a chain all the way around for extra security, if you like. But again, you were just left to die, rot, and that was it. And then the good old the water wheel. This obviously isn't the original water wheel, but we've done our best to show you what it was like. Right. And also the water in the moat was a sewerage as well. Yes. So not very pleasant either. But it just proves that they used anything in the time to punish or torture people. Yeah. And a bit of a laugh, really, in their eyes. This has spikes on it, and you was tied upside down, and round under the water you went for a few seconds, back round, probably asked a few questions, depending on what your punishment was, and then back round for a bit longer. Every time you went under the water, it was for a bit longer. It's simple as that.
Until you eventually drowned, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these are very simple if you think about it, but very effective.
Just a bit.
Very effective.
A little bit like you can't get much more simple than this, can you?
No.
I mean, it's an impaling spike. I must be honest with you, because I've studied it a bit, because obviously Vlad the Impaler, the original Dracula, used these on thousands and thousands of Romanians. But it wouldn't be as sharp as that, because if it was, you'd die of shock very quickly. I'm afraid it was much more blunt and inserted from underneath, and you literally slid down the pole slowly. The spike could come out through the shoulder, through the chest, often came out through the mouth, and sometimes, as in this case, through the skull. A dreadful, dreadful way to die.
Slow death.
Slow death, awful torture. And this, of course, this is torture, but this is torture of the soul. This is a gibbet cage, and before you were executed, if you were a murderer, you'd been sentenced to be hung 30 feet high in a gibbet cage like this one. You were never buried, your bits dropped off, and of course, you never got what the Americans call closure. Your body wasn't whole, so on the day of judgment, your soul would not be whole, and you'd go to hell. And this is what they were doing. They were torturing the poor soul. Terrible, terrible. And, you know, I mean, this looks, every inch, to be an original gibbet cage that a body must have hung in and swung in the trees with the crows pecking out the eyes and pecking at the flesh for many, many years. Dreadful.
It's also said, reported here, that they used it in a different way at Chillingham. They put your head on the noose at the top, so all your weight was on that ring, and then they light a fire underneath as well. They probably used it in different ways.
Dislocated the neck.
Dislocated the neck, or broke the neck, or whatever.
Wow.
Probably similar to what you've just said, and probably left the body in there.
More torture.
More torture, yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, there's one or two other things that were definitely used here. We'll have a look at.
Okay. Now, I suppose you could say this is torture, but really this is pure death. But certainly, Mary Queen of Scots, who of course is, let's be honest, not far away from where you are, Jedburgh, Scotland, of course. She was tortured. It took 3 blows of the executioner's axe to actually take her head off. After the first blow, the axe bit into the side of her head, and she turned towards the executioner and said, "Sweet Jesus." She then laid her head back on her neck, back on the block. He took another blow. It still didn't sever it, and he had to take his knife and cut the last sinews of Mary's neck. He then held up the head in front of the crowd to shout the words, "So perish all enemies of Queen Elizabeth." And the head, that was wearing a red wig, dropped out of his hand and rolled across the scaffold floor. And the lips continued to quiver for a quarter of an hour after Mary was dead. Dreadful, dreadful execution. And of course, her ghost haunts many, many places around.
She said to do so.
Yeah. But this here, I see you've also got a boiling pot. I mean, from the time of Henry VIII, he passed a law saying that not only could you hang murderers, but if you wanted to, instead, you could boil them alive. And a big pot like this would be sort of heated up, obviously, boiling water, possibly boiling oil, and then the person was immersed alive. They would have people with big sticks kept pushing them back into the centre of the pot until they literally boiled alive.
So this could well have been an original.
I think there's every possibility that that's what it could be. It's certainly a big boiling pot.
It certainly is, yeah.
And you could certainly get a murderer in it, couldn't you?
One or two today.
One or two. So, so that's what that was.
Yeah.
Quite amazing. But, I mean, there's even more down here, isn't
there? There is. I'd like to show you the barrel.
Yes.
Okay, this is a story that we're not that fond of, and we're not that proud of, really. But we don't know of any other castle that did this. And in the height of the battles between England and Scotland, as we know, the English used to go and raid villages, rape and pillage, and do horrible things to the people they caught there. And it said that they brought children back here, especially children and women, raped and did horrible things to them. And they also did this, which was a game. Obviously, when they'd finished with them, when they'd,
had their way with them.
Had their way with them, had been fed up with them, they'd put them in a barrel of nails like this. Okay, as you can feel the nails, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
and and they put a lid on,
yeah,
and they'd have races down the banks.
Oh, wonderful.
This happened a lot up at the lake. The lake is surrounded by very high banks, especially as you approach the lake. And obviously the first person's barrel to hit the water was the winner. Simple as that.
Not for the person inside, though.
Not for the person inside. Obviously, if you survive the nails, you drown in the water. And it is said that a lot of the spirits that haunt here are of these children, especially in some of the apartments. The Dairy and the Lancia especially, these children haunt that area.
Dreadful, dreadful way to die.
Terrible, terrible, but very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
This is the apartment that I've been staying in for the last 2 days while I've been filming here. It's absolutely amazing, like all the apartments here. This is the Gray apartment, named, of course, after the Gray family that owned this castle from the mid-1200s. I mean, we're talking about an incredibly famous family. 11 members of the Gray family actually took part in the Field of the Cloth of Gold with Henry VIII and Francis I of France. The Greys took part in all the major medieval battles: Crécy, Poitiers, Agincourt. Very, very famous family. This room is extremely haunted, as is the apartment, by Lady Grey. She was jilted by her husband, Ford. He actually left her and ran off with his sister-in-law, Lady Berkeley, of Berkeley Castle. The unfortunate thing is that Lady Grey was madly in love with him, and she never ever got over it. She never accepted the fact. She even tried to take him to court, and there was a lawsuit conducted by no less than the famous hanging judge, Judge Jeffreys. But Lady Grey, to this very day, still wanders the corridors of the castle and is often seen here in the lounge of this apartment. There is also a picture of her that people say she actually comes down from the picture and walks around the castle to this very day. There's also a little child been seen in here. A little girl wanders around. And the famous story of the Radiant Boy, a young boy who for some reason was actually bricked up in the walls between this apartment and the pink apartment, which is just next door. In fact, the fireplaces in the bedroom that I was staying actually connect to the pink room, and his spectre was seen for many, many years until a skeleton was found in between the walls and given a decent burial in consecrated ground. And the little boy is very seldom seen now. The amazing thing is that during the night I was kept awake by footsteps upstairs, someone padding around in the apartment above us. Now, I must be honest with you, there was somebody staying up there. So I'm not sure, because the thing is, it continued nearly all night, kept me awake, and I was lying there trying to analyse what on earth they were doing all night. But in a few minutes I'm going to nip downstairs, going to do an interview with Val, who works here, and just see what she's got to say about the whole thing. Val, you're the administrator here at Chillingham. Now, I've had a very disturbed night, and I was in the Grey apartment. I've been listening to footsteps, from 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I say footsteps, someone's been padding about, up and down, up and down. I mean, there is someone in there, isn't there?
Yes. Yes, somebody's staying in the lookout apartment above you.
So, what on earth would they be doing, padding round till... I mean, obviously we don't know what people do, but I lay there for quite a long time trying to analyse what on earth they could be doing. At first I thought it was the cleaners, and then I'm thinking, OK, so these people are packing up to go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, bang, bang, bang. And I just don't understand what anybody could be doing in that room like that,
No.
walking around.
Probably wasn't them. Probably wasn't them. We've had reports of it before. And
Really?
the apartment's been empty. And so people have come in and said, you know, who's above us? We've heard noises all night, kept us awake. And I've had to say there actually isn't anybody in an apartment. Nobody's there. Nobody was staying there that night.
Because I mean, obviously, the logical explanation for me is, yeah, obviously there's someone staying there.
Yeah.
They must have been doing something, but I can't imagine what anybody would be doing like that.
And the apartment isn't that big. It's not as big as the grey apartment. So the distances that you're saying that they're padding around in,
Pounding around.
yeah, is quite impossible, really.
Oh,
you
wow.
know. But it has been reported before, and there hasn't been anybody in there.
Really?
Yeah.
So
It's quite
could,
spooky.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, do you get people that are staying in the apartments reporting things happening to? I mean, obviously you've got books now, haven't you? You've got visitors' books in every room.
Yep, yeah. They write all the stories of what's happened to them and their experiences staying in Chillingham Castle. The lookout apartment is quite funny. Years ago, we had reported instances that people had got out of the beds. It was always the twin bedroom.
Yeah.
Got out of bed, gone to the toilet. When they came back, the bed was made.
Oh,
That
really?
that was quite a story that sort of kept recurring. In different books, not in the same book. So it's not like somebody's read through the book and then thought, oh, that sounds good, I'll write it. Others, they come down to the office when they're departing. They'll tell you about the toes being tickled in the bed, things like that, which is children. There's a lot of children, childish things.
Yeah.
Things go missing. That's quite a common thing. It's always something bright and glittery, and then it'll just turn up. But you can search the apartments and nothing. So quite a lot of different things. People, generally, it's what they've heard, noises in the night. We have people that disappear in the night. Not disappear literally.
No.
But they decide to leave. It's all too much for them.
Really?
Yeah, that's quite funny to us, but not so funny to them.
No, of course.
They're so really serious about it, you know, and they write and say, sorry, couldn't hack it anymore, had to leave. We've had keys left on the outside door, saying, you know, I'm sorry, we can't cope with it.
But they've not come in demanding their money back or anything like
Never.
that. Or
Never.
they've just gone.
Yes, they've all took it as an experience at Chillingham Castle.
Oh, I say. What about the staff? Do you all have
staff that actually are so frightened there's only certain apartments that they'll go and clean. Have to say, Grey and Lookout are usually the most common ones that they don't want to go into. And so, yeah, really frightened. They'll go in pairs. They'll take radios with them. They'll put the televisions on while they're cleaning. Yeah. Not because they're sitting watching them, but just because it's background noise. We had an incident a few years ago where the castle seemed to be quite active. I actually heard noises like people standing on my landing in the apartment. And I've been coming to Chillingham Castle for years and years before I worked here. And enough for me to put the bedroom light on and sleep with the light on all night. And the next day, cleaners were in, and they came and they were doing the dairy in the Lancia, and they were hanging around for ages. They'd done the dairy apartment, and said to me, when are the people going out for the Lancia? And I said, well, they went out first thing this morning. And they said, no, there's somebody in there because we can hear them from the other side of in the dairy apartment. They could hear them talking, which was the same sort of mumbling that I'd had in my apartment. Of course, they went in and there was nobody there.
God. Have other things happened to you personally?
I've heard children playing. Winter's afternoon, I was up in Sir Humphrey's apartments, which actually are under the Grey apartment. The views from the room that I was in was over the front of the castle and the Italian gardens where we're sat now. And we could also see into the courtyard area, the windows flagged each side. About 12 o'clock, I was in there because Humphrey was going to come back and I was just getting his apartment ready. And I heard children. There must have been about half a dozen of them playing what I presume to be like tag, very happy, laughing and shouting. I would have put their ages of about 5 up to about 11. And I was panicking a little bit because I thought, well, there's nobody due into any apartments with children, and if they've arrived, it was in winter, we weren't open to the public. And so I went over to the window of each side and couldn't see anything. Came down into the office where Victoria was in then, and I said, where are the children for? And she just looked at me and laughed and said, sorry? And I said, where have all those children come from? And she says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, come on, don't mess about. Where are the children from? She says, there isn't any children. And I said, yes, there is. And so that was my real experience. You know, everybody comes and they want somebody to jump out at them, frighten them or whatever. No. It wasn't frightening. It was quite nice actually because they were happy, but there was no children. There was no children in body, but evidently in spirit playing. Amazing. And that's a side of the castle that's quite notorious for children. So I actually heard them myself, and I can't say ever that that's a lie. You know, hand on heart, that is the whole truth. And so from that day on, you know, it's funny here because you'll hear things and everybody tries to find a logical explanation for something, and some things you just can't. And that's just one of them.
So in your opinion, Val, Chillingham is extremely haunted? It's
very haunted. It's very unusual, and just a wonderful place.
Fantastic. Val, thanks very much indeed.
It's a pleasure.
Bob, we're in the still room. It's haunted, of course.
Of course.
But there is also a story of a curse connected with Chillingham Castle.
That's quite right, yeah. We sort of made it as a joke to start with, but since we've sort of found out this story, people have been sending things back that they've supposedly borrowed from the castle, and they've returned it saying that they've been feeling ill and they've had really bad luck since that. There's a few.
You've actually got some of the stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, we have.
There's a bone here that was removed from one of the dungeons, not a real one.
No.
Letters like you wouldn't believe here. Dear sir, I shall not give my name, but just wish to confirm that I've returned an item of your property to the room from which I was tempted to remove it. I had not thought it as theft, but trophy hunting. However, now I pray peace will return to my life. I mean, this little chalice was removed and sent back. Letters everywhere, but this has got to be the best, hasn't it? I mean,
yeah, that's one of our original ones, and as you can see by the note, it says taken by mistake or removed by mistake. How you can actually remove a doorknob by mistake, I'll never know. But since their holiday, on the way back from their holiday, they had a really bad car accident, and one of them broke the leg. And there were local people, and so it got on the local newspaper and the local news and things like that. So it was one of our original ones, if you like.
But I mean, it's actually, dear Sir Humphrey, please find enclosed item that was removed in brackets by mistake from your castle. That is absolutely amazing.
We have hundreds of things. If I put everything on this cabinet, you wouldn't see the cabinet. Toilet rolls, towels, flannels, complimentary shampoos and bubble baths.
And they all come back to you?
Soaps, everything, you name it.
So there really is. So folks, do beware. Don't nick anything from Chillingham Castle.
That's right. That's where the bone came from, because I said that after a ghost tour, and one of the girls that was on the ghost tour said, "Oh, sorry," and gave me the bone back. She'd taken it out of the torture chamber. Yeah.
Now there is a ghost in here as well.
Yeah, there's a number of different really weird ghosts in here. Really, it's hard to explain. But one of the main stories is of the chairs around the table for a reason. A lot of people that stay in the castle, especially, say that they see people sitting around a table eating broth, soup, crusty bread. Lots of different things they're eating at the time. But again, not everybody can be wrong, and it is one of our most cited things.
Around this table?
Around this table,
kitchen area.
Lots of people believe it's ground workers, like men out the forest, out the woods. People like big lads having a rest, having a break.
But I presume some of the people who actually see it report it as if they're actually seeing a real actor or something.
It's either again through the window out in the courtyard, or actually walking through there, just have a quick glance and see people around the table.
When of course there aren't anybody there.
That's right. And again, the cook from Out the Minstrels is sometimes seen sitting in that corner as well. The same woman that's seen in the Minstrels. And the good old rocking chair, of course. The rocking chair was filmed by Most Haunted actually rocking, and a lot of other people since then have captured it on film rocking as well. So, and that's another quite a regular occurrence as well. This room is quite unusual, quite funny, and of course it's associated with the dungeon.
Which of course is our last story, but last but by no means least.
That's quite correct. Again, we used to start the ghost tours off in this room, but because I call them funny stories happen in this room, we sort of end it on a bit of a high note, if you like, to cool it down a bit and make people laugh, because it's not that serious really, and they are funny stories. and most of the funny stories are in this room, especially in the dungeon. Shall we have a look in there?
Come on. This is the actual corridor that leads to the dungeon, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Is this the original door?
It is the original door, and there is markings on the side.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Isn't it amazing? It's small, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Very small.
it's not as big as you think, and people like me struggle in here.
And of course, this is an oubliette as well, which of course has got this trapdoor.
That's right.
That they threw people
That's right.
through.
There was said to be up to 15 prisoners in here at one time, and you was on a register, and when your number was up, you were smacked over the head and pushed down the pit. And this is one of the mysteries here at Chillingham. If you survived the fall into the pit, then you was dragged back into the torture chamber, which is associated, and there's another little entrance down there. If you died, then you was taken out, and the door that leads out to the outside sort of faces the mass burial area that we saw earlier.
Oh, yes, of course.
On the Monk's Trail.
Can I lift that?
Yes,
Will
it
it
does
actually
open,
lift
yeah.
up?
Be very careful, don't fall down. It's about a 20-foot drop down there.
Oh, look at it. And there are, but of course, they're not real bones, of course. But so that's what happened. You were literally dropped through there, broke your legs, broke bones,
Yeah.
and died down there.
Yeah,
In that
they
pit.
said they did have dogs down there as well.
God.
But yeah, very dramatic, really.
Just a bit.
In a very small area.
Yeah.
Lots of horrible things that must have happened in here. Lots of engravings on the
So I see.
stonework here.
Yeah.
And there's the FC here. The FC is believed to be a spirit that haunts here called Fabian.
Oh,
He
right.
was accused of letting the royal horses escape,
Yeah.
but he was Polish and he couldn't defend himself very well, couldn't speak very good English. And in fact, it wasn't him that did it, it was Martin. And so they're always heard arguing in here. And a quite funny story, again, that's associated with the dungeon, is that a woman not so long ago, only about last week, came and knocked me up and said that she thought I'd locked somebody in the dungeon. And I came out and tried to explain the spiritual side of things, but she didn't believe in ghosts. She thought I was playing with her sort of thing, and said that she hadn't got time. She started to argue with me, in fact. So I obviously had to open the door just to prove it. And obviously she stood back expecting somebody to burst out. And when nobody did, her face was an actual picture. It was beautiful.
Nobody in here, of course.
There was nobody in here, no. But lots of men are heard arguing, and they believe that's Fabian and Martin arguing over whose fault it was.
So it's very haunted in here then, obviously.
Yeah, you get lots of different things. I mean, me and Derek Okora was in here on Most Haunted, and I thought there was me, Derek, and another chap. And when we came out, there was only me and Derek that obviously left the building. And then on the night vision camera, we saw a pair of knees sitting next to me.
Good grief.
So that was quite a funny moment. I think.
And there's even the lines scratched by somebody on the wall.
That's right.
The number of days,
Yeah.
weeks, months, perhaps, that they were actually
That's right.
imprisoned here in this. There, all over the doors.
And we've got slight lettering here. I don't know if it can be made out on the camera, but there's a W and A,
Yeah.
WG, CW, and what they believe to be Fabians.
Absolutely amazing. That's the last story, really, ghost story that we've got. The only place I haven't been to, which I would love to go and have a look, is just round to the back of. What was the front of the castle originally? Because there is a stone coat of arms that Sir Humphrey actually mysteriously
Stumbled
purchased.
across.
Yeah, can we go and have a look at that?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Fantastic. Okay, Bob, nearly the end of an incredible tour around an incredibly haunted castle. But just one more little story, not a ghost story, but connected with, I think, that crest at the top of the building there. Sir Humphrey Wakefield, who saved this castle and is preserving it now, found that crest in a garden or somewhere and bought it to preserve it, brought it here, and then found that it was connected with the castle. It's got a bat with its wings extended, which is part of the crest to do with...
That's right. He literally stumbled across it in somebody's garden and then realised that it was actually associated with Chillingham itself.
And brought it back here.
And brought it back here.
Amazing, absolutely. Again, so is it amazing that his wife, of course, Lady Wakefield, was a member of the Grey family. And so, if you like, she's come back home here as well.
That's correct, yes.
This is an absolutely amazing place. And if anybody wants to visit a haunted castle in this country, then in my opinion, this is probably the most haunted castle in Great Britain. Bob, thank you for showing me around.
Thank you, sir.
Thank your staff. And it's been a great privilege. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. And come back soon.
Love to.